Turning point for US Fed as inflation at 3% flags end of emergency. Mexico replaces China as America's top trade buddy. No timeline set for Ukraine membership at NATO summit. North Korea fires long-range missile as a warning to the US. Nearly 40% of US submarines are currently out of commission for repairs. Microsoft's Activision deal gets US judge go-ahead. Israel protests flare over Netanyahu's new Supreme Court bill. Ukrainian Svitolina stuns top seed Iga Swiatek in Wimbledon.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's Thursday, July 13th, and here are your top stories. U.S. consumer prices rose 3% last month compared to a year ago, marking a significant slowdown and raising hopes that a prolonged bout of heightened inflation is nearing its end. However, despite the encouraging report, U.S. core inflation rose 4.8%. Americans are still paying far more than they were before the pandemic for a range of goods and services. The U.S. Fed is set to meet in roughly 2 weeks as it considers whether to escalate its fight against inflation with an additional rate hike.
Food prices in the U.S. continue to accelerate faster than overall inflation, rising 5.7% in June compared to a year ago. The price of flour rose about 12% in June compared to a year ago, roughly quadruple of the overall inflation rate, while the price of bakery products rose 9.5% over that period, and the price of cookies rose nearly 9%. However, egg prices, which surged last year after a severe avian flu outbreak, fell nearly 8% in June compared to a year prior. Prices for milk, seafood, and bacon also fell over that period.
According to a new post from Luis Torres of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, Mexico has once again cemented its place as America's top trading partner with $263 billion worth of goods passing between the two countries in the first 4 months of 2023. Trade with Mexico accounted for 15.4% of all the goods exported and imported by the U.S., just ahead of America's trade totals with Canada and China. Torres notes that the changes also suggest an accelerated shift towards nearshoring.
The Economist said nearshoring comes as a practice in which countries try to bring the supply chain for crucial goods to countries that are close both physically and politically. Torres wrote, while data on recent nearshoring is thin and evidence of it is largely anecdotal, increased protectionism and related industrial policies are consistent with less global trade, more regional trade, and nearshoring and reshoring, returning products to the home country.
NATO leaders have agreed at a summit in Vilnius that Ukraine's future lies within the alliance, but stopped short of handing Kyiv a formal invitation or a timetable for accession that the country has been seeking. Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg told a news conference in Vilnius that NATO will extend an invitation to Ukraine to join the military alliance when members agree and conditions are met. However, he added that leaders have not set a timetable for Ukraine to join.
We will issue an invitation for Ukraine to join NATO when...
Stoltenberg said, "We reaffirm that Ukraine will become a member of NATO and agree to remove the requirement for a membership action plan." He said the decision will change Ukraine's membership path from 2-step to 1-step. The leaders also decided to establish the NATO-Ukraine Council by saying, "A new joint body where allies and Ukraine sit as equal members to advance political dialogue, engagement, cooperation, and Ukraine's Euro-Atlantic aspirations for membership in NATO."
North Korea test-fired a suspected long-range ballistic missile on Wednesday after warning the U.S. of shocking consequences for flying spy planes Pyongyang claimed violated its airspace. Japan's Defense Minister Yasukazu Hamada told reporters in Tokyo the missile landed outside of Japan's exclusive economic zone at about 11:13 a.m. local time, adding authorities will be checking to see if it was an intercontinental ballistic missile. The test comes a day after Kim Jong-un threatened retribution for the spy planes.
South Korea has denied that reconnaissance planes violated North Korean airspace. The last time Kim Jong-un's regime launched ballistic missiles was about 3 weeks ago, when it fired 2 short-range rockets shortly after threatening to punish the U.S. for holding joint military drills with South Korea. Pyongyang had already fired 19 ballistic missiles so far this year, including 3 intercontinental ballistic missiles designed to deliver a nuclear warhead to the U.S. mainland.
According to previously undisclosed Navy data published by the Congressional Research Service, as of this year, 18 of the U.S. Navy's 49 attack submarines were out of commission. CRS naval analyst Ronald O'Rourke said maintenance backlog has substantially reduced the number of nuclear submarines operational at any given moment, cutting the force's capacity for meeting day-to-day mission demands and potentially putting increased operational pressure on submarines that are in service.
Bloomberg reported the inactive subs are not the nuclear ballistic missile Ohio-class submarines, but fast attack boats that can fire torpedoes and Tomahawk cruise missile at vessels and land targets, and perform stealth missions such as surveillance. The Naval Sea System Command blamed planning, material availability, and shipyard execution. The CRS has launched several initiatives to address these primary maintenance delay drivers.
Microsoft cleared major hurdles to its plan to buy video game maker Activision Blizzard on Tuesday after a U.S. judge gave a thumbs up to the $69 billion deal and a British regulator suggested it could reconsider its opposition. U.S. District Judge Jacqueline Scott Crowley in San Francisco rejected the Biden administration's contention that the deal would hurt consumers by giving Xbox game console maker Microsoft exclusive access to games, including the best-selling Call of Duty.
Shortly after the U.S. judge's order, Britain's Competition and Market Authority said it was prepared to consider Microsoft's proposals to resolve antitrust concerns in the UK, suggesting the two parties may come to a resolution. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission had argued that Microsoft would be able to use the Activision games to leave rival console makers like Nintendo and market leader Sony Group out in the cold. The court gave the FTC until Friday to appeal the decision.
Thousands of protesters blockaded Israel's main airport and highways on Tuesday as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's hot right coalition pressed ahead with a justice bill that has opened the deepest splits seen in the country in decades. A day after Parliament passed a key element in the bill, which aims to curb the power of the Supreme Court, crowds of flag-waving protesters stopped morning traffic in major intersections and on highways nationwide. Some lay down on roads, while others threw flares.
The drive by Netanyahu's National Religious Coalition to change the justice system has led to unprecedented protests, stirred concerns for Israel's democratic health among Western allies, and bruised the economy. The new bill won a first of 3 required votes to be written into law late on Monday. If passed as is, it would curb the Supreme Court's power to quash decisions made by the government, ministers, and elected officials by ruling them unreasonable.
Ukrainian tennis player Elina Svitolina defeated Iga Swiatek, the top seed, a dramatic 2-hour and 51-minute battle to reach the Wimbledon semifinals. She says living through a time when her country is at war has made her stronger. Svitolina is ranked 76th and needed a wild card to enter the Wimbledon draw. She has defeated 4 former Grand Slam champions in 5 matches en route to the last 4: Venus Williams, Sofia Kenin, Victoria Azarenka, and Swiatek.
Svitolina, a former number 3, recently turned to competition after having a daughter last October. Svitolina, 28, had already reached the French Open quarterfinals last month in her first Grand Slam tournament back. Across the net from Svitolina, Swiatek has been one of the most vocal supporters of Ukraine among tennis players since Russia's invasion, with the world number 1 wearing a Ukraine flag ribbon on her cap. Svitolina said it was even tougher to face the Pole knowing how Swiatek has helped her.
Now let's delve into the news of turning point for U.S. Fed. Number 1, escalate. 是逐步扩大，不断恶化加剧。The fighting escalated into a full-scale war. Number 2, prolonged, 持久的、长期的。He left the stage to prolonged applause. Number 3, bout, 一阵、一场，有指坏事的一通、一次。The latest bout of violence has claimed 24 lives. Next, we have a multiple-choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comments section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune in to Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.
It starts with one thing. In the end, it doesn't even matter. Better world, better world. Welcome to Gilgil, California. Miracles, but miracle has happened tonight. Pray I'll be missing you. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. I can't wait for the leaving, make a better place.